The Cave of the Patriarchs, also called the Cave of Machpelah, trans. Cave of the Double Tombs, and known by Muslims as the Sanctuary of Abraham or the Ibrahimi Mosque, is a series of subterranean chambers located in the heart of the old city of Hebron in the Hebron Hills, Gen. 23:17–19, Gen. 50–13. According to tradition that has been associated with the holy books Torah, Bible and the Quran, the cave and adjoining field were purchased by Abraham as a burial plot. The site of the Cave of the Patriarchs is located beneath a Saladin-era mosque, which had been converted from a large rectangular Herodian-era Judean structure. The Hebrew name of the complex reflects the very old tradition of the double tombs of Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah, Jacob and Leah, considered the patriarchs and matriarchs of the Jewish people, who are all believed to be buried there. The only Jewish matriarch missing is Rachel, who is believed to be buried near Bethlehem where she died in childbirth. The Arabic name of the complex reflects the prominence given to Abraham, revered by Muslims as a Quranic prophet and patriarch through Ishmael. Outside biblical and Quranic sources there are a number of legends and traditions associated with the cave. In Acts chapter 7 verse 16 of the Christian Bible, the Cave of the Patriarchs is located in Shechem. Acts chapter 7 verse 16. Biblical origin. According to the book of Genesis chapter 23 verses 1–20, Sarah, the wife of Abraham, died in Kiryat Arba, the same as Hebron in the land of Canaan. Abraham the Hebrew was tending to business elsewhere when she died, at the age of 127 years, and he came to mourn for Sarah, and to weep for her. After a while, he stood up and spoke to the sons of Heth, and requested they give him a possession as a burying place, and they offered him his choice of their sepulchres. And then in verse 7 he again stood up to speak to them. Abraham then requested that Ephron the Hittite, the son of Zohar, give him the cave of Machpelah, in the end of his field, for as much money as it is worth. After Ephron confirmed that he would give the cave, in verse 11, Abraham further requested that he give him the field for money, in verse 13. Ephron agreed and named a price. Genesis chapter 23 verse 16. And Abraham hearkened unto Ephron, and Abraham weighed to Ephron the silver, which he had named in the audience of the sons of Heth, 400 shekels of silver, current money with the merchant. 17. And the field of Ephron, which was in Machpelah, which was before Mamre, the field, and the cave which was therein, and all the trees that were in the field, that were in all the borders round about, were made sure. 18. Unto Abraham for a possession in the presence of the children of Heth, before all that went in at the gate of his city. The burial of Sarah is the first account of a burial in the Bible, and this is the first commercial transaction mentioned. The next burial in the Cave of Machpelah is that of Abraham, who lived 163 years, 100 years unto the birth of Isaac, and 60 more years unto the births of Esau and Jacob, with whom he spent his last 15 years. The title deed to the cave was part of the property of Abraham that passed to his son Isaac in Genesis chapter 25 verses 5–6. Genesis chapter 25 verse 9. And his sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah, in the field of Ephron the son of Zohar the Hittite, which is before Mamre. 10. The field which Abraham purchased of the sons of Heth. There was Abraham buried, and Sarah his wife. Isaac was 180 years old when he died, and his sons Esau and Jacob buried him. As noted above, Isaac was 60 when they were born, so they were 120 years old here, which is 10 years before Jacob, at the age of 130, stood before Pharaoh in Genesis chapter 47 verse 9. Jacob died later at the age of 147 years. There is no mention of how or when Isaac's wife Rebekah died. but she is included in the list of those that had been buried in Machpelah in Jacob's final words to the children of Israel. Genesis chapter 49 verse 29. And he charged them, and said unto them, I am to be gathered unto my people. Bury me with my fathers in the cave that is in the field of Ephron the Hittite. 30. In the cave that is in the field of Machpelah, which is before Mamre, in the land of Canaan, which Abraham bought with the field of Ephron the Hittite for a possession of a burying place. 31. There they buried Abraham and Sarah his wife. There they buried Isaac and Rebekah his wife. And there I buried Leah. 32. The purchase of the field and of the cave that is therein was from the children of Heth. 33. And when Jacob had made an end of commanding his sons, he gathered up his feet into the bed, and yielded up the ghost, and was gathered unto his people. In the final chapter of Genesis, Joseph had his physicians embalm his father, before they removed him from Egypt to be buried in the cave of the field of Machpelah. When Joseph died in the last verse, he was also embalmed. He was buried much later in Shechem after the children of Israel came into the Promised Land. In Acts chapter 7 verse 16, Stephen claims that the cave of the Patriarchs is located in Shechem. History. Hellenistic Judaism. To commemorate the site for his Jewish subjects, Herod the Great built a large, rectangular enclosure over the caves. The only fully surviving Herodian structure from the period of Hellenistic Judaism, Herod's building, with 6-foot thick stone walls made from stones that were at least 3 feet tall and sometimes reach a length of 24 feet, did not have a roof. Archaeologists are not certain where the original entrance to the enclosure was located, or even if there was one. Byzantine Christian period. Until the era of the Byzantine Empire, the interior of the enclosure remained exposed to the sky. Under Byzantine rule, a simple basilica was constructed at the southeastern end and the enclosure was roofed everywhere except at the center. Arab period. In 614, the Sassanid Persians conquered the area and destroyed the castle, leaving only ruins, but in 637, the area came under the control of the Arab Muslims and the building was reconstructed as a roofed mosque. During the 10th century, an entrance was pierced through the northeastern wall, some way above the external ground level, and steps from the north and from the east were built up to it. A building known as the Calla was also constructed near the middle of the southwestern side. Its purpose is unknown, but one historic account claims that it marks the spot where Joseph was buried, the area having been excavated by a Muslim caliph, under the influence of a local tradition regarding Joseph's tomb. Some archaeologists believe that the original entrance to Herod's structure was in the location of the Calla and that the northeastern entrance was created so that the Calla could be built by the former entrance. Crusader period. In 1100, after the area was captured by the Crusaders, the enclosure once again became a church and Muslims were no longer permitted to enter. During this period, the area was given a new gabled roof, clerestory windows and vaulting. In the year 1113, during the reign of Baldwin II of Jerusalem, according to Ali of Herat, a certain part over the cave of Abraham had given way, and a number of Franks had made their entrance therein. And they discovered, of Abraham, Isaac and Jacob, their shrouds having fallen to pieces, lying propped up against a wall. Then the king, after providing new shrouds, caused the place to be closed once more. Similar information is given in Ibn at-Tahir's chronicle under the year 1119. In this year was opened the tomb of Abraham, and those of his 2 sons Isaac and Jacob. Many people saw the patriarch. Their limbs had no wise been disturbed, and beside them were placed lamps of gold and of silver. The Damascene nobleman and historian Ibn al-Kalanizi in his chronicle also alludes at this time to the discovery of relics purported to be those of Abraham. Isaac and Jacob, a discovery that excited eager curiosity among all three communities in the southern Levant, Muslim, Jewish, and Christian. Towards the end of the period of Crusader rule, in 1166, Maimonides visited Hebron and wrote, "On Sunday, 9 Maheshvan, I left Jerusalem for Hebron to kiss the tombs of my ancestors in the cave. On that day, I stood in the cave and prayed, praise be to God, for everything." In 1170, Benjamin of Tudela visited the city, which he called by its Frankish name, Saint Abraham de Bron. He reported, "Here that there is the great church called Street Abram, and this was a Jewish place of worship at the time of the Mohammedan rule, but the Gentiles have erected there 6 tombs, respectively called those of Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah, Jacob and Leah. The custodians tell the pilgrims that these are the tombs of the patriarchs, for which information the pilgrims give them money. If a Jew comes, however, and gives a special reward, the custodian of the cave opens unto him a gate of iron, which was constructed by our forefathers, and then he is able to descend below by means of steps, holding a lighted candle in his hand. He then reaches a cave, in which nothing is to be found, and a cave beyond, which is likewise empty. But when he reaches the 3rd cave, behold, there are 6 sepulchres, those of Abraham, Isaac and Jacob, respectively facing those of Sarah, Rebekah and Leah, upon which the names of the 3 patriarchs and their wives are inscribed in Hebrew characters. The cave is filled with barrels containing bones of people, which are taken there as to a sacred place. At the end of the field of the Machpelah stands Abraham's house with a spring in front of it. Ayyubid period. In 1188, Saladin conquered the area, reconverting the enclosure to a mosque but allowing Christians to continue worshipping there. Saladin also added a minaret at each corner, 2 of which still survive, and the minbar. Samuel Bent Samson visited the cave in 1210. He says that the visitor must descend by 24 steps in a passageway so narrow that the rock touches him on either hand. Mamluk period. Between 1318 and 1320, the Mamluk, the governor of Gaza, a province that included Hebron, Sunja al-Jawli, ordered the construction of the Amir Jawli Mosque within the harem enclosure to enlarge the prayer space and accommodate worshippers. In the late 14th century, under the Mamluks, 2 additional entrances were pierced into the western end of the southwestern side, and the Kala was extended upwards to the level of the rest of the enclosure. A cenotaph in memory of Joseph was created in the upper level of the Kala so that visitors to the enclosure would not need to leave and travel round the outside just to pay respects. The Mamluks also built the northwestern staircase and the 6 cenotaphs, distributed evenly throughout the enclosure. The Mamluks forbade Jews from entering the site, allowing them only as close as the 5th step on a staircase at the southeast. But after some time this was increased to the 7th step. Ottoman period. During the Ottoman period, the dilapidated state of the patriarchs' tombs was restored to a semblance of sumptuous dignity. Ali Bey, one of the few foreigners to gain access, reported in 1807 that all the sepulchres of the patriarchs are covered with rich carpets of green silk, magnificently embroidered with gold. Those of the wives are red, embroidered in like manner. The sultans of Constantinople furnish these carpets, which are renewed from time to time. Ali Bey counted 9, one over the other, upon the sepulchre of Abraham, Israeli authority after the Six-Day War in 1967, in which Israel gained control of Hebron, the first Jew who entered the cave of Machpelah for about 700 years. Was the chief rabbi of the Israel Defense Forces, Major General Rabbi Shlomo Gurin. About 700 years ago, the Muslim Mamelukes conquered Hebron, declared the structure a mosque and forbade entry to Jews, who were not allowed past the 7th step on a staircase outside the building, following the 1929 Hebron massacre. This restricted access was even more restricted by British Mandate authorities. After Israeli statehood in 1948 and the Jordanian occupation of the West Bank, no Jews were allowed anywhere in the Judean mountains. following the Israeli occupation of Hebron in the Six-Day War. The area came back under Jewish authority for the first time in 2,000 years, and the 700-year-long restriction limiting Jews to the seventh step outside was lifted. Jews immediately began resettling in the city after the Six-Day War, fixing their expulsion following the 1929 Hebron massacre. The first subsequent Jewish wedding ceremony took place on August 7, 1968. In 1968, a special arrangement was made to accommodate Jewish services on the Jewish New Year and Day of Atonement. This led to a hand grenade being thrown on the stairway leading to the tomb on October 9. 47 Israelis were injured, 8 seriously. On November 4, a large explosion went off near the gate to the compound and 6 people, Jews and Arabs, were wounded. On Yom Kippur Eve, October 3, 1976, an Arab mob destroyed several Torah scrolls and prayer books at the tomb. In May 1980, an attack on Jewish worshippers returning from prayers at the tomb left 6 dead and 17 wounded. Tensions would later increase as the Israeli government signed the Oslo Accords in September 1993, which gave limited autonomy to the PLO in the West Bank city of Jericho and the Gaza Strip, the city of Hebron, and the rest of the major Palestinian population centers in the West Bank were not included in the initial agreement. The Cave of the Patriarchs massacre committed by Baruch Goldstein, an Israeli-American settler in February 1994, left 29 Palestinian Muslims dead and scores injured. The resulting riots resulted in a further 35 deaths. The increased sensitivity of the site meant that in 1996 the Wye River Accords, part of the Arab-Israeli peace process, included a temporary status agreement for the site restricting access for both Jews and Muslims. As part of this agreement, the WAQF controls 81% of the building. This includes the whole of the southeastern section, which lies above the only known entrance to the caves and possibly over the entirety of the caves themselves. In consequence, Jews are not permitted to visit the cenotaphs of Isaac or Rebekah, which lie entirely within the southeastern section, except for 10 days a year that hold special significance in Judaism. One of these days is the Shabbat Cherei Sarah, when the Torah portion concerning the death of Sarah and the purchase by Abraham of the land in which the caves are situated, is read. The Israeli authorities do not allow Jewish religious authorities the right to maintain the site and allow only the WAQF to do so. Tourists are permitted to enter the site. Security at the site has increased since the Intifada. The Israel Defense Forces surround the site with soldiers and control access to the shrines. Israeli forces also subject locals to checkpoints and bar all non-Jews from stepping foot on some of the main roads to the complex and ban Palestinian vehicles from many of their own roads. On February 21, 2010, Israel announced that it would include the site in a National Heritage Site Protection and Rehabilitation Plan. The announcement sparked protests from the UN, Arab governments and the United States. A subsequent UNESCO vote in October aimed to affirm that the Al-Haram al-Ibrahimi, Tomb of the Patriarchs in Al-Khalil, Hebron, was an integral part of the occupied Palestinian territories. Israeli authorities have placed restrictions on calling the faithful to prayer by the muezzin of the Ibrahimi Mosque. The order was enforced 61 times in October 2014, and 52 times in December of that year. This was following numerous complaints by the Jewish residents who claim that the calls violate legal decibel limits. In December 2009, Israeli authorities banned Jewish music played at the cave following similar complaints from the Arab residents. On 6 November 2015, 2 Israelis were shot and injured in a Palestinian shooting attack at the site. Jerusalem Post, 6 November 2015.